Democrats hoped that Robert Mueller's testimony would be a turning point. Every indication seems to be that Nancy Pelosi, who has the final say on the issue of impeachment, was unswayed. Political analysts say that leaves the final word to the 2020 election. That said, political polarization was never more apparent during yesterday's hearings. While there was no bombshell, the most striking thing Mueller said was the president was not exonerated of potential crimes.
So the report did not conclude that he did not commit obstruction of justice. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what about total exoneration? Did you actually totally exonerate the president?
No.
Mueller was also emphatic the issue of Russian interference was not a hoax. It was not a witch hunt. Joining me now to talk more about this, News4Jack's political analyst and head of the JU Public Policy Institute, Rick Mullaney. Now, after the hearings yesterday, the president went on to say again, this vindicated me, but there was another back and forth. And even though there was no bombshell, because this was all talked about in May, Mueller was asked, can you charge the president with a crime when he's out of office? And the answer was an emphatic yes. And this showcases the fact that if he was an ordinary citizen, yeah, the president would be charged.
Well, there's a lot there to unravel. Clearly, any U.S. president can be charged once they leave office under the department guidelines. Yesterday went back and we just quoted some of the most compelling testimony, or at least one of the things that came out was consistent with the report. Robert Mueller said once again that when it came to obstruction of justice, the president had not been exonerated. That led to a whole wide-ranging conversation. No doubt about that.
I think one of the most surprising things is, to many people, that Mueller seemed to struggle.
Bruce, I have to tell you, I think the number one biggest takeaway yesterday was the performance of Robert Mueller, and I do want to say this very respectfully. He is a patriot. He served in Vietnam and was decorated for his service. FBI director, U.S. attorney, took on this assignment, and I don't think anyone, very few, only maybe the most partisan, doubt his patriotism and his credibility and his stature. However, yesterday was not a good day for Robert Mueller. He was not in command of the facts. He was not in command of his report. He was hesitant. He hurt his own credibility, and I think he hurt the credibility of the report. Most of the conversation coming out of yesterday related to what was for some a very stunning performance. Up until now, there's been an air of credibility, an air of authoritativeness with regard to him and the report. A lot of that was shattered yesterday in a very difficult performance for Robert Mueller.
And if you followed the line of questioning, all the Democrats were single-minded. All the Republicans seemed to be single-minded. And the Democrats didn't make the progress they hoped.
Well, Bruce, let me say, I think you have takeaway number two. One was Robert Mueller, but the other was partisanship was on full display yesterday. What you really saw was not compelling testimony, because there wasn't a whole lot of testimony. What you saw were speeches from the Democratic side and speeches from the Republican side. And they were punctuated by yes and no answers from Robert Mueller. This was classic cross-examination. You know, in law school, they teach you that cross-examination, the information's in the question, not in the answer. Direct examination, information's in the answer, not in the question. Yesterday was all cross-examination. Very, very partisan. The Republicans going after the origin of this investigation, largely unsuccessful, and Robert Mueller said he wouldn't go there. Democrats trying to, in a very coordinated way, trying to reinforce the obstruction pieces, particularly before the House Judiciary Committee.
Now, Mueller did pretty much stick to the report, as he promised he would, but he did push back on the president on a couple of points.
Such as? What do you have in mind?
Well, on the whole situation with the council, issues concerning asking Sessions to unrecuse himself and things like that.
Yes. Clearly, there were some high points in his testimony for the Democrats. I mean, let's face it, there's some very politically damaging information in the Mueller report. Now, whether it rises to the level of high crimes and misdemeanors, we'll have that discussion, but politically damaging. And Democrats were hoping that they would showcase that for the American people yesterday. What were those? And you saw a lot of that. He was clear that this was not a witch hunt. He was clear in talking about the president's conduct as it relates to WikiLeaks, that at a minimum that was inappropriate. He was clear in defending the integrity of his team. And he pushed back with the president's characterization of the report, there's no doubt. But once you get past those sort of weedy things, you're left with this testimony. He was not the witness that the Democrats hoped he would be.
And as I said, when it comes to the case for impeachment, it seems that Nancy Pelosi is unswayed at this point.
At this point, she is unswayed. Yesterday did not really advance the cause with Nancy Pelosi, but make no mistake about it, this is far from over. Investigations will continue. The president is not out of the woods, but for yesterday at least, this wasn't what the Democrats were hoping for.
And that's what Nancy Pelosi said. The investigations continue.